Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you guys are at. I hope you're having a fantastic day. It's SoulSaint here, and I wanted to talk to you guys about the new events that are coming up for not only today, which is the 9th of December. I can't believe we're almost at the end of the year. But also throughout the rest of the week, we got some crazy progressives coming up that I think are going to be very interesting, and they may also propose a bit of a question, which I'm going to ask you guys towards the end of this video. So if you guys haven't already considered kicking back, relaxing for a little bit, we're going to talk about the Prism event, which is the Savage Summoning Pool event, as well as the next couple events that are going to be for progressives through the rest of the day. So strap in. We're going to get locked in, all right? All right. Now, this one is tailored around He-Man, which is funny enough because we have a collab right now that's currently going on for He-Man himself, but also in particular, we have a Path of Power event that is designed specifically for him and his blessing. So, should you go for this one real quick? Well, let's take a look at what's in there. Number one, we have Harima, a very solid defense damage dealer, really useful. I actually had some fun using her inside Chimera, believe it or not, for a little bit of extra survivability from her passive. But also a great PvP nuker, too, as well. We can't forget about our boy Staltus, who is fantastic for Dragon, you know, being able to deflect all the damage back, as well as also a solid damage dealer slash nuker for PvP, who's also defensive nature-based. So two really solid ones there. One's Bannerlord, the other one's Shadowkin, and then, of course, we have our boy Hefrak. Hefrak is our Demon Spawn attack-type champion who is a little bit out of the meta right now because a lot of his biggest output is going to be based off of his cooldown on his passive, which means that someone has to die, and that's a blessing and a curse. You sometimes see him, but you really kind of don't. However, with another event coming on, he may have some value, and I'll hold that thought, okay? Then, of course, the Queen of Hydra, still to this day, despite the nerf hammer coming at her, she still holds up very well and is the top dog when it comes to damage. You literally can't build enough of her, for lack of better words. But with that being said, Trunda. I don't think I need to go too much into detail. I think the community, all you guys that are watching right now, know how good she is, how frustrating she is in terms of experience. But a very solid choice nevertheless, especially with the value that protection is bringing to Chimera. I think Hydra has increased in relevance yet again. Our boy Mishinaki, speaking of Hydra, really solid there, as well as really solid almost everywhere. Hex is really good for Spider. Decreased defense, AoE is good for everywhere. Decreased attack, also good everywhere. HP burn's good on some case-by-case scenarios, but still really solid. And then, of course, a little bit of an ally attack built into his kit with a really decent defense aura in all battles. This champion is by far one of my favorite styled champions. You guys hear me kind of throw a nod to the homies at Marvel. This guy is like the Green Ghost Rider. It's really cool. It's cool. He's a personal favorite of mine. If you don't know already. Then of course the Goat, one of my favorite, if not the most valuable fusion I've ever done, outside of maybe G-Nut. Razavarg. Increased speed, increased accuracy, both by aura and by buff on his A3. Leech and, of course, turn meter boosting on his A1. This guy packs a punch. He also scales off of speed. I think he's one of the only champions, if not one of the strongest champions that does it. I use him in Hydra. I used him in my clan boss team many moons ago. This guy does a lot. So if you need help getting any of those teams off the ground, this champion will do it for you. And nevertheless, he's also he's just strong, man. He's a little squishy, but he's very strong. He packs a pretty decent punch. So I am proud to have been a owner of Razzlebark, and I still to this day respect him dearly. So really strong champion. Speaking of enemy max HP hitters, which have become a little bit more relevant in Chimera, maybe not so much Hydra, although they have gotten a little bit better comparatively to what we've had before prior to the nerfs. Athorion, his A3 is a good buff for him to set up, gives him an extra turn, which allows him to punch really hard with a 2-hitter enemy max HP hit that's AoE in his A2, Falcon Shot, which also puts block buffs and decreased attack, which is valuable for a lot of content. Skyfall Arrow, which is an A1 that doesn't trigger counterattacks, and of course gives him turn meter for each living enemy after the attack, is pretty nice. And then of course he increases by max HP for any killed head when it comes to Hydra. So you can definitely tell he's a Hydra specialist, but nevertheless you can get some good value out of AoE enemy max HP hits. Probably good in Spider, for example, if you're trying to clear like hard. As well as like maybe boss killing to some degree. If you can get to the 100%, maybe he's 20% of that. You never know. Pretty good. And then, of course, one of the guys that has a special place in my heart, one of my first defensive nukers is Ragash. I used him first as a setup champion with a decreased defense, and then lo and behold, I realized, like, yo, he's just strong, period. Let's just build him nuke himself. And Ragash hits. He hits. A little bit power crept out of the meta because we need more than just hitting now. Although I don't think he's completely irrelevant. I think he still can kind of do some decent damage if you can build him well enough. But nevertheless, you want to be a little careful with the meta kind of shifting towards more utility / damage instead of just damage. I mean, he does have that stun that comes in play with him, which is kind of nice. But nevertheless, you know, if you need a nuker, he's pretty good. And who doesn't love Tony the Tiger, right? So really, really cool champion. Now, I'm going to leave the headliner for last since he's kind of the main reason for you to justify pulling for him eventually, inevitably. But the epics, how do we feel about the epics? I think I'm just going to kind of give you a spitball glance. All of these are very solid. This is the cream of the crop. Thylesia, solid champion for not only Hydra, but Sin City in particular, where she shines. Sinesha has a special place in Sin City. Literally one stage you can't beat without her, I feel like. Husk, very solid AoE, enemy max HP hitter, who also is a pseudo provoker if you need it. Maybe you need a little bit more uptime in provoking. He has that on his A1. Really good there. Zargala, solid for Faction Wars, solid for Sin City, and everyone that I mentioned so far, and everyone on this epic list is great for Faction Wars and Sin City, both of them. Royal Guard, enemy max HP hitter again, who also has a decreased speed, and I think a little bit of turn meter removal on the A3. Really good for Fire Knight early stages, as well as, you know, Hydra and even Spider I used him in. So if you want to check the YouTube, you can see that there. Siege Hulk, a hitter, a nuker, not only for Faction Wars, but for Sin City. I have a spot for him. I actually wanted to build up 2 of them. I don't know if I ever got around to it, but I have at least 1 fully built out, and he is a hitter. Tay-Rail, synergistic, man. I mean, great utility, great value he brings to the team. A lot of the Faction Wars or Sin City maps where you have some restricted spots, he comes in. Also is complemented with like Skaramis, so he's a really great synergistic team opportunity there with those 2 champions, him being in one of the focal points of it, and even by himself, still solid. Venomage, good for Amius, good for special bosses inside Sin City. Also Doom Tower. Let's see where else. Faction Wars. I mean, this champion can be built to be like your utility sustain route, like your Theodores, like your Staltis, to be a boss killer by just out sustaining them and then just beating them down with poison, like Dragon, for example, could be really, really valuable there. Let's see. We have Anax, clan boss, good single target damage dealer. Phoenix, really good in being able to put block revive on the A1 if you are able to kill maybe that Ice Golem minion that keeps spawning up after every threshold gets hit. Or maybe even as a single target nuker for PvP. I mean, some people underestimate the value that this A1 has, and it has such a good multiplier that with empowerment, he could pack a punch. So I've gotten killed by a Phoenix before, and it sucked. Magnar, a solid AoE damage dealer. One of the first HP nukers that was introduced in PvP. Very, very solid champion. I use him for Faction Wars particularly still, and maybe some special cases in Sin City, but outside of that, though, that's kind of his only spot for me right now. And then, of course, Ruella. I've done teams with her in Sand Devil. There's teams for her in Clan Boss with Myth Ru Elva. Literally, she's the middle part of the Ru, you know. I've seen her in Sin City, Faction Wars. I mean, you name it. If you need a single target debuffer, this chick has decreased defense and weaken. And then, of course, turn meter control, as well as a boost with increased crit rate, and, of course, accuracy on dungeons by 40. Very, very solid champion. I actually love her dearly. I used her for my Faction Wars progression, but this pool is solid. This pool is solid. But is it worth it because you want to go for He-Man? Well, it depends. 1, do you need a nuker? If so, you should pull this entire pool, period, because anything you get here is going to be valuable. If you're a He-Man stan, or if you're, nostalgic and you really like the franchise as a whole, and it just kind of hits you home for your childhood or anything like that, then yeah, why not? Why not? Go for it. If you enjoy the game and you want to support it, and you also like the character itself based off of, your previous attachment to the franchise, by all means, man. And I haven't done a playtest on them yet because I have one, but I haven't built him yet. I'm actually going to wait for the 5-star from the Path to Power. And I think I will build him up and give him a little bit of a test run. He has a great aura for speed, has a really good, interesting scaling factor. Although it resets, it's still pretty good for build up, and has a chance to give you a lot of value there. He does ignore Stone Skin, which is kind of interesting. So if you can kill somebody through Stone Skin, that'd be really, really dope. Get someone out of the fight really early on. And then, of course, a lot of turn meter, a lot, as well as a little bit of scaling damage in his kit, which could be really, really cool. Does he have the power, though, is the question. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. Is this pool worth going for? I think the answer is yes. I like it. I like it. So, early game players, anything from this list is going to be really, really strong for you, whether it's epics or legendaries. I think that Faction Wars is going to be one of the first things you're going to look to conquer, as well as finding some utility resources for specific niche areas, whether that's dungeons or clan boss or anything. This entire pool gives you a little bit of all that, and then some. And then from my mid game to late game, I think it's still kind of similar, but you're now going to be a little bit more choosier about what you want. Like, for example, maybe you need something specifically for Hydra, and that's where Trunna comes in, or maybe Mishinaki or Razavark. Maybe you need something more PvP-oriented, where Harma could kind of come in, or dungeon-specific, maybe that's where Stalti comes in. You got those options, right? And then in-game players, Prism events are always solid because you're able to pinpoint and target specific areas that you want. So if we're looking at a breakdown of this at a glance, we have one champion that's Sacred Order, one champion that is Bannerlord, one champion that's High Elf, one champion that is Demon Spawn, two that are Skinwalkers, one that is Dwarves, and then two that are Shadowkin. So if you're looking to fulfill or fill up your Faction Guardians by getting duplicates, any of those factions that were listed, including Sacred Order, which I believe He-Man's a part of, you can start filling those up. Now, He-Man is a unique champion. Once you get him one time, that's it. If you got him during, by purchasing the Forge, though, that's two right there you can get by getting the Prism and him, and that's one Faction Guardians for Sacred Order done. So by all means, that's a W, right? Now, in terms of the others, though, if you're looking to fill up Faction Guardians, this is a great opportunity to get duplicates for specifically Skinwalkers, and I feel like Shadowkin in particular. Now, I have to pause and say this, that with each new Unity champion that they've come out over the course of this year, they have guaranteed at least one Prism event for each one of them. The only one that we haven't had a Prism event for so far now is the Undead, who just recently came out. Now, I have reason to believe that either this one or the next following one that we're going to get the Unity champion in a particular focused Prism event, which will probably also tailor a couple of Undead champions. So, if you're looking to fulfill your Undead bracket, I would wait there. And this kind of brings me to the next point that I'm going to kind of talk about. For each individual faction that still hasn't came out yet, like, for example, I'm looking to fulfill my Shadowkin. Although I love Harma and I love Mishinaki, and I would love to get duplicates of them to not only finish up my Faction Guardians, but maybe even Empowerment. If I'm looking to specifically fill up my Faction Guardians, it might be more prudent for me to just hold back, save up for now, and then when the time comes when we get the Unity champion for the Shadowkin, and they have a tailored pool that's just for Shadowkin for Legos, that's when I go aggressively for it, and that's how I can fulfill both of them. It means I have to be patient. It means I won't get my bonuses right away. It sucks, but I mean, like, that's one way to be a little bit more frugal with your resources, because what you get here could be any amongst the 4%ers, and then you have one, like, a small chance for it. Now, I did want to kind of preface this and say this, though, if you're interested specifically for He-Man. They did put in the news, I believe, that he's going to have a mercy system introduced into this one. So eventually, after you hit 20 prisms from there without receiving a legendary, it will increase the chance of summoning legendary champions by that point, and you'll have that. So if you are willing to go a little bit more than just your standard numbers right off the rip, if you're willing to do a handful of pools instead of just onesies and twosies, then you have a higher probability, but you're going to have to get over the 20. So that mercy system is going to take a little bit to kick in, but eventually it'll kick in if you're looking to really get aggressive and get your hands on He-Man. I also want to give you one last note, and then we'll go ahead and let you guys go from here. He-Man himself does not empower He-Man. So if you get two He-Mans, you have two He-Mans. You can't empower one into the other. The only way that you empower He-Man is through Holstring, I think his name is, which is right here. And it's a little unfortunate that they don't give you the opportunity to empower He-Man with He-Man. But that just means that I'm going to be on the lookout for Holstring specifically when it comes to actually empowering He-Man, if that champion is that valuable for you. So don't go for the second He-Man if you plan on empowerment. That's not how that works, unfortunately. So with that being said, what do you guys think? Are you guys excited about this particular event? Is the Savage Summoning Pool enticing enough for you to go for? I do think that the Trunda, although tumultuous, the relationship that Plarium has with it in tandem with the community and how they view it, she's still valuable. And to be honest with you, better to have and not need than to need not have. So I think if you are looking to be competitive in Hydra, she is the answer. There's other things you need to make her work, but she is the main component to get that damage out. So even if you don't have that perfect team, she's still a solid answer to give you what you're looking for in terms of a damage dealer, you know. And then her HP burn is now relevant too. It's actually pretty solid for being able to land across all the heads, and HP burn is not bad in Hydra, believe it or not. And then, of course, PvP champions, they're not too bad either. I think Harma, although there may be an argument that she's been kind of power crept out of the meta a little bit with, like, so much utility and diversity with Mythics kind of now being introduced to the table. She's still a very solid champion if you need a nuker that can also kind of subliminally keep your team alive with Battle of Attrition being a big focus. There's been plenty of times I've gone against Harmas that are just built so tanky that they stay alive, and their passives allow the rest of the team to stay alive more, who are also built tanky, and it's just like, how do you break this wall of tankiness? And she's still valuable in that regard. So definitely not a bad nod if you want to go for her. I think out of all the legendaries, she's still one of the ones that kind of holds up pretty well in this now mythical meta, I feel like. So with that being said, we also have some other additional events coming up. This one's going to be talking about Unities a little bit here. Today is Monday, which we have the Volcanos one. If you haven't already seen it, they threw out a progressive event for Artak, Mishinaki, Sisia, and then, of course, Volcanos. I think if you're looking at any of these, and I'm just going to kind of preface this right off the rip, if you're prefacing any of these now at this point, I think you're looking for the Unity champion specifically. Out of all these, I feel like that's the most enticing one to go for. I will say there's a special nod for Artak and Sisia because they're HP burn activators, as well as Ms. Shinaki being a really great all-rounder. And they all have their locations where they have areas to shine, but Volcanos being a Unity champion, once this progressive goes, the next time we get it is not until another specialized event just for him is going to happen, and who knows when that's going to be. I don't think it's going to be like too far out the future. They're probably going to introduce more because we've had a recent event with all the Unity champions, so this double back is kind of like becoming a little bit more of a norm, but nevertheless, you kind of want the Unity champions, let's be real. So, this one today, at the time of this recording, which is on the 9th, we have Volcanos, but I'm going to go ahead and talk to the future. Tuesday, December 10th, we're going to have one for Aislinn. Aislinn's going to be on the table for you to grab. He is the Bannerlord Unity champion. I will say that release Aislinn was kind of like undervalued or like not valued very highly. He's kind of had some spots where it's like, okay, it's not bad. You could see some usage from him, and even then it's still kind of niche. But nevertheless, he's still a champion that if you need Unity for, maybe you're looking at Siege as an example, he could be pretty valuable for. They're also going to be bringing some other legendaries that are also pretty prolific, like, for example, Armand's. If you don't know, he is meta still. I think there's been some more ways to kind of counterbalance him and kind of work against him and basically just outpace him or outbeat him. But it is an uphill battle against a very, very well-established Armand's. He's going to be on the Prism, or not the Prism pool, but the progressive events too as well. If you're looking to get empowerment, this is a great way to maybe try to approach grabbing him. They also are going to have Staltis, who is also on the Bannerlord side. If you're looking to get that Dragon team going, or you need a defensive nuker and you feel like you don't have a lot of Force champions, this could be a great option. And then, of course, they're bringing in Samson. Skinwalkers is going to be HP based. I really feel like I only want him for one particular stage in Sin City myself, and then outside of that, I don't really care for him, so I don't really feel like this one's a big deal. But it is still nevertheless something that if you're interested in getting this champion, maybe you just like the way he looks, you want to go King Kong on people, then yeah, you can go for him. He's going to be available this Tuesday. And then, of course, Odin, my goat. I feel like I am so grateful. Shout out to Amatsu if you're watching this video. Amatsu helped me get this champion from my account, and I use him aggressively. This guy has become so popular recently that he is very useful, he's all-encompassing to some degree. He's an offensive support, for lack of a better word. So being able to nuke somebody and bring somebody back to life with Revival on his A3. The A2 has a buff stripper and a decreased defense setup to allow your nukers to go ham and go home. Great, crazy. The fastest void aura in the game. And then, of course, an A1 that allows you to berserk, which could kind of be a little bit of a setup. It's a blessing and a curse depending on how you look at it. But it could be a good setup to allow your enemy nukers or your nukers to get hit or to hit with on that target, and that target takes a lot more damage. But be careful, because you put on a DPS champion, they're also going to hit harder if they get their turn. So play with that in mind. Really strong champion, really useful. And then, of course, we have Arnorn. Now, I didn't talk about this too much, and I don't know if you guys want to see a video of me breaking down all the champions I got during these most recent progressive /2Xs that came up, but I got my hands on an Arnorn. And this guy's actually low-key kind of a problem. I think his passive is underrated with being preventative in terms of giving yourself stone skins, kind of like a pseudo-cleanse, and the fact that he ignores strengthen, increased defense shield, which is kind of meta, kind of not meta. It's kind of coming in and out. And then, of course, being able to just do a lot of damage and giving yourself an extra turn if you do it, it's pretty sick. He's a pretty sick champion. Really good survivability, really good damage output, and he's an attack type nuker, which is interesting. These guys are known for being squishy and packing a punch, but his passive gives him that little bit of extra room of breathing so that you can kind of do some work even if you have to take a little bit of a hit on the way. This guy is sick, sick, sick. I'm actually working towards getting blessings for him. I just got his first one not too long ago, but look who's on my wish list. Very, very valuable. Very, very valuable champion. And that's going to be it for Tuesday. On Wednesday, we're going to get a really, really desired one, which is Legate Teox, or Teox if you want to keep it simple. He's going to be the Unity champion for Wednesday on the progressive side. I've tried many times to get this champion, and I feel like I've come up unlucky, and I don't really have like a lot of shards right now, and I'm kind of on cooldown for buying shards right now. But if I had one of the particular ones that are out, I think my order would be Teox number 1, Volcanos would be number 2, and maybe interchangeable with number 1, and then Aislinn would be number 3 out of the Unities so far that they're putting out in these progressives. But Teox is that guy. Very, very strong, very, very unique, very, very capable. Really good synergy with the Lizard faction. I believe there might be a little bit of a bug right now currently going on with Sheep on his 3rd faction ally one. However, this guy is still dope. So once they fix that bug and he's back to his normal shaping form, he's going to be doing a lot of value. He's going to have a lot of value in terms of being able to do a lot of DPS. So I think that's going to be really, really cool. Yeah, he's that guy. So I would like to get my hands on him, but they are putting this at a weird period where I'm on cooldown on charts. I don't really have like a lot to work with. But anyways, more on what's coming out this Wednesday. We have Harma, speaking of which, for progressives. She's also going to be on there. We kind of already talked a lot about her during this video, so I think I can kind of move on from there. But your anti-demon spawn, your anti-crit, ignore percent factors are reduced a little bit by her. And of course, she's a defensive nuker that scales really, really well over time. And the longer this fight goes, the more crazier she gets. So really, really strong champion. Kandrafon, I don't want to say power cred, but I feel like he's kind of fallen out of the meta a little bit. Force Affinity, attack type nuker. He's kind of really well known for going seconds and going second type teams and using like perfect veil to your advantage. So really synergistic with Duchess. And considering, and this is a perfect time to segue when I was talking about Hefrek and what I was going to talk about earlier, Volcanos, if you do go for him today and you so happen to get him, there's really good synergies with him being in sync with other demons. So maybe getting that Hefrek or maybe getting that Kandrafon could be valuable for your team. Who knows? Maybe even Duchess, if you already have her, could be valuable for that synchronicity to really let your team shine. Maybe along with Carnage or Commodus. I mean, you have a lot of variety to work with, and this could be really, really nasty if put together well enough. Now, with that being said, Hansel. I'm actually surprised they're bringing this one back here. Hansel is on the docket too as well for this progressive on Wednesday. I feel like a lot of people were expecting a lot more out of the duo. They kind of a little bit more DOA. Together, they could be pretty useful, but I think separate, you can see them kind of lose a little bit of that value. So they're kind of conditional bumping together a little bit more aggressively, you know, Hansel and Gretel, that is. Now, for the Voids. This one's kind of interesting because I love him dearly, but I feel like he's kind of fallen out of the meta. He's like there for niche compositions, but not as highly picked as I used to pick. And he used to be my top pick for DPS. Now, not so much. And it's King Narcisse. Really good for shield and strength and menace. He kind of is the reason why they kind of went away for a little bit. But nowadays, you need so much utility. You need something that offers more than just damage. And he is kind of just damage. And that's kind of the problem right now. Still really solid with Ancora. Don't get it twisted. He's still a solid champion, but a little bit on the power cred side. However, he is in this progressive as well. Followed by our final option for today, which is going to be Leorius. Leorius the Proud. He's going to be our Skinwalkers. Kind of the counter to, I don't say counter, but like kind of an indirect counter to Narcisse. Funnily enough, because it doesn't stop his passive with that A2 from Narcisse. His passive still kind of works because it's not stopping the damage. It just gives you the unkillable, so that he can kind of live through it still. And then, you know, because he has no HP at that point, he kind of just packs a punch and he rips your team apart, you know? So, Leorius, solid nuker, immune to a lot of CC until his A2 is put on cooldown. But nevertheless, a really, really cool champion. I think niche yet again, but solid nevertheless. And that's pretty much it for this this big fusion event week that we got coming ahead of ourselves. Are you guys going to go for any of these champions? I would be honest with you guys. If I had a choice, it would be Volcanos and Legate Teox. And then if I had a infinite amount of shards in this hypothetical world, I would consider champions like Odin. I didn't talk about today's particular ones because I feel like by the time you see this video, it's going to be a little too late. But Sophia's a good nod. especially if you already have that Teox. That'd be like a really great champion to synchronize with. He's a great champion, period. Would be a good grab to go for. They have Sissia, Mishinaki, and Venus. Venus is also really solid. Artek is also really solid. Those are all the champions that are in this particular one for today. But nevertheless, I think they are not exactly as desirable as what I would go for if I were choosing between Volcanos and those options. But they are solid nevertheless. These are all solid pulls. Like, all these champions are really, really good to grab if you don't have a copy of them, or if you don't have a first version of them or something along those lines. So keep in mind, these are not 2x events. These are progressive events, which means that you have your standard rate to get a legendary, and then with that legendary, the chance of getting that champion is increased by 15%, which doesn't mean that it's a 50% chance to get him. It's whatever the total pool is, and then you add 15% of that to the pool. So it's a little bit lesser than what you think. It can be a little misleading depending on how you interpret it. But this is a solid pool nevertheless. I think for right now, it begs the question, why are we getting so many events that have some kind of enticing experience behind it? Because Teox is a very desirable champion. So is Volcanos, and they're throwing them out like candy right now in terms of back-to-back progressives or some kind of events associated around those Unity champions. Which means, what is around the corner? Well, we do know Dark Elves is on the way. And we also know that there may be a fusion coming up that may be super, super worthwhile to go for. We don't know. Food for thought, though. Anyways, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And with that being said, always remember, stay as said.
Got the